For over 30 years, the identity of a woman found in a remote area remained a haunting mystery. No one knew her name, and the case seemed destined to be forgotten, until an unexpected breakthrough changed everything. In today's episode, we'll dive into the shocking forensic techniques that brought the Rita Roberts case out of the shadows and into the light. But before we begin, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below if you're ready to uncover the truth. It was 1989 when the lifeless body of a woman was discovered in a secluded part of the countryside. Her remains, found in a remote location, were concealed among thick trees, far from the bustling towns and cities that dotted the map. The circumstances of her death were as mysterious as her identity. No personal belongings, no signs of struggle, and no obvious leads that could provide answers to who she was or how she ended up there. Authorities were stumped. The lack of identification made this case one of many that became a part of the ever-growing list of unsolved mysteries. Forensic investigators at the time were limited by the technology of their era, relying on traditional methods like fingerprints, witness testimony, and blood samples. But for this particular case, those methods yielded little. It was clear that they needed something more, something that could breathe new life into a case that seemed destined to remain cold forever. As the years went by, this Jane Doe, as she was referred to in police records, became just another statistic, another unsolved case in a growing stack of forgotten stories. But even as time passed, the public's interest never fully dissipated. The questions surrounding the woman's identity lingered, with the case periodically surfacing in local media. However, there were no new leads, and the case remained stagnant. As the case grew colder, forensic science was advancing at a rapid pace. While the technology of the late 80s and early 90s hadn't been able to crack this mystery, the next few decades would see some groundbreaking developments in forensic techniques. But in the early years, this case was just another grim reminder of how many unsolved cases we still have. Cases. It was only when forensic science began to rapidly evolve in the early 2000s that the Rita Roberts case, still open but gathering dust, was resurrected. Forensic science had started to make impressive advancements, including DNA testing, which opened up new possibilities in solving cold cases. In the past, investigators relied on basic autopsy reports and fingerprints, but DNA analysis was about to completely change the way the world approached criminal investigations. Yet, for years, the case languished, with little hope for resolution. Forensic breakthroughs that could potentially identify Rita Roberts were still years away. The missing woman's identity was a riddle with no solution, and as time went by, the case became just another file in the growing archives of cold cases. Forensic science, however, would soon turn the tide. In the years leading up to the eventual identification of Rita Roberts, several key techniques, previously unavailable, would prove to be game changers in the investigation. Technologies like DNA profiling, genetic genealogy, and facial reconstruction would soon become the critical tools that would uncover the truth hidden within the shadows of the past. As we delve into the story, it's crucial to understand the pivotal role forensic science played. Without these innovations, Rita Roberts' case would likely have remained unsolved, her name unknown, her story lost to time. The incredible advances in forensic technology over the last few decades have made it possible for investigators to solve cases that were once thought to be beyond hope. The breakthrough in the Rita Roberts case is not just a triumph of persistence and determination. It's a testament to the power of forensic science in solving even the most elusive of mysteries. Before we continue exploring how this cold case was cracked wide open, don't forget to hit that notification bell. That way, you won't miss out on any of the fascinating forensic breakthroughs and investigative twists that will be revealed in the upcoming parts of this series. And if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe. Your support helps keep stories like this coming your way. For over 20 years, the identity of Rita Roberts remained a mystery. Despite the initial investigation and the attention from law enforcement, the case was virtually at a standstill. Traditional methods of investigation, like fingerprinting, interviews, and even composite sketches, hadn't led to any answers. However, it was clear that something needed to change to crack this case wide open. Then came the advent of DNA analysis. It was in the mid-1990s when forensic science underwent a revolution, and DNA testing became more widely available and reliable. This advancement completely transformed the way investigators approached cold cases. For years, investigators had relied on other methods, but the power of DNA was now impossible to ignore. DNA profiling was a game-changer, offering unprecedented accuracy and specificity in identifying individuals, even from trace amounts of biological material. In Rita Roberts' case, investigators knew that if they could extract DNA from her remains, they might be able to find a match that would finally provide the answers they had been searching for. The process began with careful extraction and testing of whatever biological evidence they had: hair follicles, blood, or any other possible DNA source from the body. Although the body had been exposed to the elements for years, forensic scientists were still able to extract a usable sample of DNA. Once the DNA was analyzed, it revealed a critical fact. It was not an ordinary match. This DNA sample didn't match any known individuals in national databases. However, it did have some interesting characteristics that would later help investigators in their search for answers. This was where mitochondrial DNA, mtDNA, became particularly useful. While nuclear DNA, the kind typically used for identification in criminal investigations, was often difficult to extract from old or degraded remains, mitochondrial DNA, mtDNA, proved to be a crucial tool. Unlike nuclear DNA, which is inherited from both parents, mtDNA is inherited solely from the mother, which means it remains relatively unchanged over generations. This made it incredibly useful when trying to identify individuals from old, decayed, or skeletal remains. In the case of Rita Roberts, the mtDNA analysis was vital. The sample was incomplete, but investigators were able to determine that the mitochondrial DNA matched a very small group of possible familial connections. Unfortunately, this was still not enough to provide a direct identification. However, it provided a critical lead, narrowing the scope of investigation to potential relatives of the deceased. As forensic science and technology progressed, these mtDNA leads began to form the foundation for one of the most groundbreaking techniques in modern investigations: genetic genealogy. By the time investigators in the Rita Roberts case turned to genetic genealogy, a new frontier in forensic science had emerged. Genetic genealogy is the process of using DNA to build family trees that extend beyond immediate relatives, connecting individuals to distant cousins, great-grandparents, and beyond. This new technique is rooted in the same concept that has made services like Ancestry.com and 23andMe so popular: tracking family connections through DNA. In the late 2010s, investigators began to use forensic genealogy to solve cold cases. They used public DNA databases like GEDmatch, where users voluntarily upload their genetic information in search of family connections. Investigators could now upload the DNA sample from Rita Roberts' remains into these databases to see if there were any close or distant relatives who had already submitted their DNA profiles. What followed was nothing short of extraordinary. Through genetic genealogy, investigators were able to trace distant family connections, slowly building a family tree that led them to a breakthrough. By comparing the mtDNA of the unidentified woman with DNA samples of living family members, they were able to pinpoint her true identity, linking her to relatives that had been unaware of her tragic fate. The process wasn't quick, but it was a crucial breakthrough. The genetic genealogy method allowed authorities to bypass traditional methods and use family connections to uncover the truth. Eventually, investigators discovered that the woman they had once only known as Jane Doe was, in fact, Rita Roberts. This identification brought closure to a family who had been searching for answers for decades. But genetic genealogy wasn't the only tool in the forensic investigator's arsenal. Another technique, known as phenotyping, proved to be equally powerful in this case. Phenotyping is a technique that involves reconstructing a person's physical appearance from their DNA. This process uses genetic markers to predict features such as hair color, eye color, skin tone, and even facial structure. It's a relatively new technology, but its potential to help identify unknown victims or suspects in cold cases is immense. In the Rita Roberts case, phenotyping was used to help create a profile of the woman's likely appearance. Using the extracted DNA, forensic experts were able to determine details about her physical features with remarkable accuracy. They were able to predict her hair color, eye color, and skin tone, which led to the creation of a composite image that resembled what Rita Roberts may have looked like in life. This composite image, created through phenotyping, became a powerful tool in the investigation, allowing detectives to match her face to known individuals or family members. It also helped investigators narrow down potential leads when genetic genealogy alone wasn't enough to solve the case. Before we move on to the dramatic moment of Rita Roberts' identification, take a moment to comment below on how these forensic breakthroughs have changed the landscape of crime solving. Do you think genetic genealogy and phenotyping could have solved other notorious cold cases? We'd love to hear your thoughts. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future investigations where we explore cutting-edge forensic science and the mysteries it solves. The incredible progress in forensic science gave investigators the tools they needed to crack this case wide open. Thanks to DNA analysis, genetic genealogy, and phenotyping, Rita Roberts' case went from being an unsolvable mystery to a case of remarkable closure. But how did it all come together in the end? Stay tuned for the final part of this series, where we reveal the moment when Rita Roberts was finally identified and discuss the impact this had on her family and the world of forensic science. After decades of uncertainty, the moment investigators confirmed Rita Roberts' identity was nothing short of remarkable. The case that had gone cold for over 30 years was finally cracked wide open, and the woman once known only as a nameless victim was now a person with a story, a family, and a future of answers. The breakthrough came through a combination of powerful forensic tools, genetic genealogy and mitochondrial DNA analysis, that had pieced together enough clues to trace her family lineage. It was through these technologies that a long-lost relative was found. From there, investigators were able to trace Rita Roberts back to a family that had long wondered about her fate. But the most poignant moment came when investigators shared the news with her family. For decades, they had been left in the dark, living with the mystery of what happened to their loved one. When Rita's identity was confirmed, the relief and emotional impact on her family were overwhelming. For her parents, who had long believed their daughter had simply disappeared, this confirmation gave them closure, a long-awaited sense of peace that had eluded them for years. Rita's family, though devastated by the tragic end to her life, was finally able to give her a name and a place in the family history. No longer was she an anonymous victim buried in the past. She had become a person again, her identity restored through the tireless efforts of forensic investigators and the power of modern science. The moment her family learned of the identification, there was an overwhelming mixture of emotions. Her parents, who had spent years wondering where she had gone, were finally able to place her story into context. There were tears of both grief and relief as they were able to claim their daughter, knowing that her life, though tragically cut short, would no longer be a mystery. For her siblings, the identification brought back years of heartache, but also a sense of resolution. They had long held out hope that one day they would find out what happened to Rita, but the reality of her death, though painful, offered them a semblance of closure. It was no longer a case of uncertainty. Rita Roberts was not just a statistic. She was their loved one, and they could finally begin to mourn her properly. In addition to the emotional impact on her family, this breakthrough also had a profound effect on the case itself. With the identity of Rita Roberts confirmed, investigators were now able to pursue new leads and examine potential suspects. While they had been at a standstill for years, the identification opened the door to revisiting the details of her life, her relationships, her acquaintances, and the circumstances surrounding her death. The case was no longer just about uncovering a person's identity. It was now about seeking justice for Rita Roberts and uncovering the truth of what happened to her. The confirmation of her identity, paired with the cutting-edge forensic techniques that helped bring her story to light, provided a renewed sense of purpose to the investigation. The successful identification of Rita Roberts is a testament to the power of evolving forensic science in solving even the most challenging cold cases. It was only through the relentless pursuit of innovative techniques, like genetic genealogy, mitochondrial DNA analysis, and phenotyping, that investigators were able to finally break through the walls of mystery that had surrounded this case for decades. In the past, cases like Rita's would have likely remained unsolved. But thanks to advances in forensic science, investigators have new tools that can turn old, seemingly hopeless cases into stories of resolution. From DNA profiling to public genetic databases, these technologies have transformed the way the world tackles cold cases, allowing investigators to go beyond traditional methods and explore new ways to connect the dots. Forensic science is no longer just about solving crimes. It's about bringing justice to those who have been lost to time. It provides families with the chance to finally understand what happened to their loved ones and gives them the closure they've been waiting for. In Rita Roberts' case, forensic science didn't just reveal her identity. It gave her family the answers they had long been denied, and it offered a glimpse of justice for her untold story. As we've seen in this case, forensic breakthroughs can help uncover the truth, even in the most difficult and complex investigations. The role of modern forensic methods in solving cold cases has never been more crucial, and this story is just one of many where science has given us the tools to seek justice for the victims of unsolved crimes. As we conclude this journey into the Rita Roberts case, it's important to reflect on how forensic science continues to shape the world of criminal investigations. The field of forensic science is ever evolving, and its impact on cold cases like Rita's is profound. Through advancements in DNA analysis, genetic genealogy, and phenotyping, we are able to solve mysteries that were once thought to be lost forever. But this case is more than just a triumph of science. It's a reminder of the human element that lies at the heart of every investigation. Behind every victim, there is a story, a family, and a community that longs for answers. Forensic science isn't just about solving puzzles. It's about restoring humanity to those who have been forgotten and providing justice to those who deserve it. We want to hear your thoughts about this case and the role that forensic science played in its resolution. What do you think about these new techniques, and how do you think they'll shape future investigations? Let us know in the comments below. We love hearing from you. And if you're as fascinated by forensic science and unsolved mysteries as we are, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, so you're always in the loop when we release new deep dives into incredible cases and groundbreaking forensic breakthroughs. Thanks for watching, and stay curious. Who knows what the next breakthrough will reveal?